Miss Carla's Corner. And tonight I have a guest with me. I am so excited to have him here today. We're going to wait for a minute to try to see if we can get some people to come on in and share with us on today. I'm just happy because I figured out how to bring a guest on. It's just it's the little
We have
things
to,
for
yeah, it's
me.
a little growth. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's the
actually
little
what builds the journey, them small
yes, it's
gains. Yes, yes.
it's the little things that help you grow into those big things. So if you're out there in YouTube land, tune in now. We're streaming live. We have some good conversation that we're going to enter into with you tonight. Mr. Stick to It, thank you for being here with me tonight. It makes me so happy to have you here. Other. I don't know what happened, but okay, I'm live.
Right, right, right.
Hello, everyone. My channel, I don't know what happened. It went out, it's back now. Welcome to Miss Carla's Corner. Tonight, as I said, I have Mr. Stick to It with me here. And we're going to talk a topic tonight that neither one of us have rehearsed or done anything about, but we're just going to have the conversation. So, Marcus,
Yes,
please
yes, yes.
introduce yourself to the people tonight.
Well, hello everyone. For the record, I'm going to say that this is my first live, my probably my second time speaking in front of people. And so, despite the nerves, I'm going to push through. I'm going to stick to it. But again, my name is Marcus Wilburn. I am a growing black man. I'll say this: I'm over 40, and I'm never too old to learn. Um, my journey started at birth. God had a destination for me, and I'm fulfilling the purpose. And growing up, it's been a little challenging. Having to learn on the fly, not really knowing which way you're going to go in life, but through the hills and the valleys, you begin to become the person that God has created you to be. And this is just a part in my journey where it's time for me to speak, time for me to take the bull by the horns and live who God has called me to be. A little bit about my back past. I've worked several jobs. I've always been the type to work hard. I never really had the time to pour into myself, and I have a creative ability where I can draw really well. And as I began to grow, life happened. I have three beautiful boys. Not recently, but I've been divorced. I've remarried. I've had trying times. I'm not going to say what most men go through, but for me in my journey, I faced addiction. I faced in the streets. I faced walking away. I guess off of my purpose, and I had to learn the hard trials. I had to learn the hard way, and I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world because it made me who I am today. And to kind of fast forward, now that things kind of settled in my life, I began to ask and pray. I've prayed my whole life to ask God to reveal my purpose to me. And with doing so, I guess he felt like now was the time. And I previously had a YouTube channel, trying something new. It didn't work. And we're here now, 2025. It's been over 7, 8 years, and just the 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 journey itself in healing and just growing and maturing as a young man. I'm ready to tell my story. I'm ready to give back. I'm ready to reach the person behind me because it's not about me anymore. And unfortunately, it took me 40 years to get here. And we moving forward. And I met Carla um, through YouTube, and she's been very supportive. She's actually pushed me. I was able to design a shirt for her. I know you guys probably have seen it, but to be honest, guys, she was my first customer. That was a goal in mind that I had, and ever since then, she's stuck in my corner. She has great content, and it's like she was placed in my life. So she asked me to come on here to kind of open up. And guys, if you would have seen what just happened, it's more to come. But again, I don't want to take over the mic or whatnot. But I'm here. I'm here live in the flesh.
Yes. And I'm glad you are here, Marcus. We shared a little bit prior to coming on the live. And tonight, we just want to talk about the pain of change versus the pain of remaining the same. And you and I didn't go into deep detail, but in my life, I've been confronted with situations where I had to decide, am I going to remain the same or am I going to do what it takes to change? And I know, Marcus, you've done the same. And so, what I'd like for both of us to really begin to have a conversation around is how that impacts men versus how it impacts women. One of the things that I most admire about you is that when I've talked about certain things around pain and change and things of those sorts, you have been very open with me about that. And just, men don't always talk about their emotions. Men, a lot of times, will hide behind things like, they don't have emotions or that things that are emotional don't bother them. And what I know, I have a son, I have brothers, I have grandsons. I talk to men all the time, and they have very real feelings. There are things that impact men just like they do women. And I want us to be at a place where we can really have conversations about the things that are confronting us in life and have those things be things that we don't hold on to, but that we release.
Yes,
And
yes.
so I know for you, Marcus, can you tell me a little bit about, what it means to have the pain of remaining the same? What does that mean for you?
Pain remaining the same. It's something that you can't silence. It reminds you every day. And one thing that I always tell people that I talk to, whenever the noise settles and your day ends, whatever you did to get through the day, alter your mind, whatever, shopping, online, scrolling, whatever it is, there will be a moment in that day before you go to sleep. There's going to be a voice that's going to speak to you. Whether you listen to it or not, it's that's up to you. It's going to be there. It's not going to go anywhere. And just remaining the same is trying to silence that voice that's pushing you in another direction.
Mhm.
And the longer you fight, the longer it stay there. And no matter what anyone tells you, I think it starts with being honest with self. And that's one of the hardest things to do, where you have to look in the mirror, you have to self-reflect. And that pain, you're never fulfilled. Every day,
Mhm.
you may do good things and things may, happen for you. But at the end of the day, when you ask yourself, are you really living? What is your purpose?
Mhm.
And most people can't answer that. And for me, that's what I was up against. I've searched books, I've searched hobbies, I've searched everything in life, and I was not fulfilled. But it was when I sat still and I began to listen to that voice that the pain it settled, and I was able to um, move forward. I was able to find my purpose.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing with the pain of remaining the same. You're stagnant. You think because sometimes you feel comfortable, or because it's a familiar place, that you think, okay, I can stay here. But it's like you said, change is something that it just keeps digging at you. It won't
Yep.
let you rest. And
Right.
so we all have to confront that place where, like, okay, are you going to stay like you've been, or are you going to do something to change?
Yep.
And so both places can be painful.
Yep.
And here's the
You begin to, not to interrupt, but you begin to look at the mask that you put on and start to believe that that's really you. That's
yeah,
how long you hold on to it, where you
yeah,
start believing what you see.
yeah. And you know what? There are some things that I think that when we become stagnant, and that comfortability, that's what brings that on. You start believing what you see, even though you know
Yes, yes,
that
ma'am.
it's not true.
Yep.
You know that's not who you really are. You know that there's more to you,
Yep.
but you're so comfortable, and you're even in sometimes, I've been comfortable in remaining the same, but yet, I was uncomfortable. It's
Hmm.
like you have this duality going on inside of you. There's a fight going on
That's true.
inside of you.
That's
You
true.
try to ignore it, but you can't.
Yes, yes, yes. I was the life of the party growing up, and I was always requested to be around. And like you said, fighting that duality, you fighting that other person. There was times where actually most people in my past, I've said, "Hey, this isn't me. I'm not who you see right now."
Mhm.
And when I began to tell my truth, it was like people started to they liked the person that was wearing the mask versus the person that was being honest up
Yep.
front, telling the truth. And it's like, wait a minute. So you were liking that person, and it wasn't even me.
Right.
And that's how I knew that it was time to be on the journey, time to kind
Yeah. Move on.
of, yeah.
And that's the pain of change,
Yep.
because when you get to the place where you recognize the need to move on, it's painful, because there are people who are familiar with you. There are
Right.
people who've known you for a long time. It
Right.
could be family, it could be friends, it could be coworkers. They know you, but who they know is the old you, the
Yep.
you no longer want to be.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that causes a friction within you, because you begin to question yourself. I questioned myself, like, what are people going to think of me? You know, you know, are they going to still like me? And,
Yep.
all
You
those
start you
things.
start you start living for other people's opinion.
Yes,
And that is a
absolutely.
dangerous place to be in. And most people, I just talked with my cousin and close friend of mine, and they both admitted, one is, in his late 20s, and one is the same age as I am. And, when you really get past the layers of most people, you'll find out that at some point in their life, they live for other people's opinion.
Yep. Yeah, we all do. We all have that place, because one of the videos that I did, Marcus, I talked about being a people pleaser, and how, as we want to please our parents,
Yep.
we want to please our family, we want to please. We grow up the whole time looking to
Yep.
please. We want to please the teachers. We want to get good grades, and we get into the workforce. We want to
Yep.
please our boss. We want to
Yep.
please our coworkers.
Yep.
You
Yep.
get married, you want to please your spouse, and
Yep.
you never please yourself.
Self. Yep. That's true. And it's like, it's wasted energy when you really look at it. You're not fulfilled at the end of the day. And that's a tough place to be in, because you'll never get enough validation from those people.
Never.
And you start to feel like you're used. You start to feel taken advantage of. And when you're in need of something, when you start to look around, you're like, wait a minute. those people aren't there.
Yeah.
So now you're forced to deal with yourself, and it's that pain pushing you to your purpose. It's that
That's
that
it.
pathway that's trying to unravel, and unfortunately, some people like to be the same. They like to fit into that category where
Yep.
everyone else is doing, and that I don't want to run with that crowd. That
That's
path
right.
is wide. That path is wide, and I just choose to be different.
And it costs us something when we choose to be different. As a man, it's cost you. As a woman, it has cost me. But I can tell you this for a fact: it's been worth every bit of the price that I've had to pay. My only regret is that I didn't do
Didn't
it
do
sooner.
it. And can I ask you this? When people see you now, have you heard that? I don't know how you did it.
Oh
I
yes.
couldn't do I couldn't do what you did. Or man, I didn't have enough guts. My own father, he
Wow.
told me, he said, I couldn't have done what you did, and just my journey and what I've been through. And at the end of the day, that was seeking validation, seeking
Yes.
to please other people. Am I doing it right? My job, am I working hard enough? And at some point, you lose yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said they watch, they get the courage when they see you make it, and then
Yep.
you begin to open up. So
And sometimes you have to be that first person. Sometimes I'm the oldest in my family. You get used to being the first,
right,
and sometimes you chart that path. And I think what happens a lot of times when you're the person charting that path, you get the grunt of the pain because you're trying to do it. Nobody else in your family has done it. So
there's
you
no
take all,
blueprint.
as they say, you take all the bullets.
Yep, yep. And they're watching you from afar, like, okay, they okay. And then once
Right.
you did it, it's like, yay! And it's like, no, I told you to walk with me, but
Right.
and then you on the flip side, you got some that get mad at you. They hate you because you had more courage than they did.
Yes. But
And
none of it can stop us. Here's the thing. When we talk about the fact that whether you remain the same or whether you change, there's pain involved in it. You get to choose your pain.
that's
You
right.
get to choose it.
That's right.
Everybody has a choice. And Marcus, one thing I've learned is I'm okay with walking the road by myself. I had to
Yes.
get to that place.
Yes.
But now that I'm here, I will walk alone.
Yes. Yes.
I will
I
walk
do it.
alone.
I
I
do it
will
in a
do.
heartbeat. I'll do it in a heartbeat because you get in tune with self. You get in tune with your creator. You get in tune, and it has a funny way of leading you where you need to go. If you never fall out the nest, you'll never know how to fly.
That's facts.
And I lived safe my whole life.
Wow.
I lived in that circle of people that said, congratulations, but they really wasn't happy for me. It was just because they were able to use me or have me there when they needed. But when I decided that I need myself more, I'm not scared of failing. And that was one of my main drivers in my life right now. It's like at some point I gotta win.
Yeah.
And if I'm no longer here, I get it. But long as I'm here, I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep pushing forward. And it's that moment where we get comfortable where we stop growing.
Yep. And Marcus, I think that is what causes people like you and I to cross paths because we're on a journey somewhere. And so when you start on a journey somewhere, you're going to meet people that you don't know, but they're on the same path
Yes,
as you.
ma'am. Hmm.
And so it what it does is it inspires you to continue on the journey.
Yes.
It inspires you to say, "Hey, well, I'm not alone. I got a brother Marcus out there. He out here on the journey
Right,
too.
right, 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 right.
He's a man who has experienced all type of emotions. He's been through all types of circumstances. He's not afraid to be emotional and say, "Hey, yes, I feel things too."
Yes, that's the water to the plant right there. When you cry, when you can go in, and them tears, they're different. And a friend of mine just the other day said that he didn't know how to cry. He didn't he,
Wow.
didn't- he didn't know how to release. And the beautiful thing now with this journey that I'm on, and like I said, coming across, meeting you and the people in my community at the right time, they step in and you see that they're watching and they push you a little further.
Yeah.
In this past, I think since February, I've met more personal, like I've had more personal relationships with people that I didn't even know versus the people in my family. And I was printing a shirt for a lady the other day, one of where I work, and she's been supportive since day one. A person that you would never think would be in your corner. And one day God told me, He said, "Go in there and just tell her thank you." And
Mhm.
she was actually needing something from me because she was going out of town to support me. And I told her, I said, "You've been more family to me than my own family." And she hugged me. And I try not to break down, but like I said, God places the people in your life for a reason. And if you believe that, you're going to meet some nice people along the way.
I agree. I agree. And I think it's because when you make the conscious decision to embrace the pain of change, it's it has benefits. It
Yes,
has benefits.
yes, yes,
And the benefits are that you get to grow yourself.
yes,
Like you, Marcus, I have grown myself because I decided to go down the road of change. And whether we like it or not, things are always changing.
yes.
Nothing remains the
Nothing,
same.
nothing at
It's an
all.
illusion.
Yep, yep,
It's an illusion. So
yep,
people want you to buy into the illusion that, oh, why are you changing? There's no such thing as change. You might as well keep on doing what you've been doing.
yep.
Heard it all
Be-
before.
being content in life is not a healthy place either.
At all.
Every plant needs to be repotted. You know, something is grown in the ground, it has all the space that it needs to grow. And one thing that I've always said too is if you're not growing, then you're dying.
That's right.
You know,
I agree.
you're eventually just, withering away, and that's part of that change. I didn't want to stay the same.
Right. And I think, we talk about being uncomfortable and remaining the same. And you're uncomfortable in change too, because what change is doing it is it's putting you in a space you've never been in before. you know and so because of that, you're not quite sure how this thing is going to work out.
Right,
So
right,
there might be some fear you confront, there might be some doubt you confront, you might feel shame because you feel like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing. That's how I feel
right.
on YouTube. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
But
but
guess what?
at the right time, you figure it out though.
We are here, aren't
Yeah,
we?
yeah,
We're
yeah,
on YouTube just like the people who have tens of thousands
yep,
of followers. It's
yep,
not stopping us
yep.
because guess what? We know who we are, and
Hmm.
we are embracing the
Yep,
pain of change.
yep. It's I've heard I listened to a podcaster, I think Mel Robbins, but it's the fear. Like once it's like you fail so much in life. It's like, why not try it again? Why
Yes.
not do it again?
Yep.
And in the midst of that, like you said, stepping out and not know where you're going, you build confidence, you build courage, you build your faith. You almost become unstoppable. It's in that
Yes.
uncomfortable spaces where you really thrive.
Yep.
And being, like I say, being the same, you want to experience that. It's like you can't tell people what that journey feels like until they're in it. They won't
Right.
experience it. You get your answers quicker. Your prayers become stronger. The applause become louder. I never seen anyone that changed and went backwards.
Right.
Always changed and went forward. So
And I think, that's because when you put effort into it, it's going to bring about a reward.
yep,
If you don't put any effort into it, you're not going to get a reward. And a lot of times, you know, we don't put effort into it because we want a reward.
Right.
We put effort into it because we want the change. The
Mhm.
reward is a byproduct.
Right.
You
Right.
know, because
Mhm.
sometimes the reward comes in a way you wasn't even expecting.
That's true. That is so true. Definitely.
And
And
then,
it's like sometimes you just like you rather take one for the team. You
yeah,
know, because when you're in that journey, you don't become selfish.
nope,
The more you open up along that journey, those people that you touch, you see more meaning in that than just the person, just trying to get the knowledge to maybe go a different way or to just take advantage of what you've gained or where you're headed. It's like, no, you
yeah. So tonight, what we're talking about is the pain of change versus the pain of remaining the same. Tonight, my guest on Wellness Wednesday is Marcus, Mr. Stick to It. He has a channel here. Please make sure you go and subscribe to his channel. I'm so blessed to have him on here with me tonight. And I can't think of a better person that I would finally want to launch my YouTube with someone else with. I literally have tried this before and it did not work, and it worked tonight. And I always believe things happen when they're supposed to. Again, Marcus, that is the testament of the pain of change.
yeah,
I did not let not being able to go live with someone stop me
right,
from
right,
keep trying to go
right.
live.
Right. But you had to experience that failure in your past to know what it's like to get back up. And
Yes,
most people won't see that, and it's like I said, it's designed this way. Like I said, meeting you and coming across and just hearing what you're, speaking about and just watching you grow, it encourages me and we're here today. Like I say, this is my first live. I haven't even went live yet.
oh
I'm
my
still
God.
growing. I'm still going to bed late, waking up, YouTube is all over my mind. But, God continues to remind me, like, it's just one step at a time, one step.
Yep.
And there's no quitting, there's no
None.
stopping. You have a message, there's, you have something to share. And, I don't want people just to watch, just to be a spectator. Like, I want people that understands, like, you build that community and it means more than just out here, trying to grow on YouTube. So the
Right.
small family that you and I have, I see some people intertwined, and it's like I didn't
Absolutely.
even know. I was like,
I
wow, you over
didn't
there too? Like that is
either.
so dope. So it has a funny way of creating
Yep,
that
putting
community.
people together.
Yep.
But I think that's what makes community. The community is built on people who have common values, commonalities. We're all trying to grow together. And the growth, like you said, isn't about just the numbers, it's
Yep.
about the impact. And I'm a firm believer. I have spoken to thousands of people. This isn't my first rodeo speaking
Right.
to people.
Right.
My job is as a trainer. I train on a regular
Right.
basis, but doing it on YouTube is different. But
Right.
here's what I know, whether you're large or small, the one thing I was taught, if you only have an audience of one person, you
Mhm.
treat that one person like
Mhm.
there's 1,000
Yep.
people, and
Yep.
you don't give them any less. So
Yep.
when I come on my channel, I make sure you're going to get the best of the best.
Say you got to pour from that full cup, right? When you said
You
that,
don't get
I had
that.
to think about it. I was like, even just the other day, like I told you what I have going on, my cup is almost full, and I'm like, Lord, please, like. But when you said it that day, I was like, I don't know until I experienced it. And that was that week of like become, creating and learning. And it's like, I, I gotta take a break. I gotta pull away from this right here. I'm not racing against, and I had to sit back and I said, that's what she meant by pouring from a full cup, because when
Yes.
you have the full cup, you have more to give. But if you're just pouring from when you said that day, and I watched that on your shore, I was just like, wow, that. And I think most of us nowadays are pouring from a empty cup. We're pouring
Empty
from a
cup.
cup that's
We'll say, "Oh, my cup is half full." Half full? No. But these are the things we get caught up in
Yep.
because we hear people saying them and
Hmm.
we just pick up on it without thinking about what does that mean for me?
Yep.
Why can't I allow my cup to overflow? If we really believe in such a thing as overflow, then I'm going to give you from my overflow.
That's right.
Because you're going to get
Right.
the best of me
Right.
when I'm giving you from my overflow.
That's right. I
I don't
think
want to give nobody half.
it's too many distractions. It's you substituting. You say that too. I heard too that it's the noise. We don't pull away from the noise. You know,
Right.
separate yourself so you can hear what yourself is telling you. Like you have everything you need on the inside, and until
Yep.
you listen to that, you'll never be full again because it'll remind you either I need to change this, I need to do this, or I need to do that. But we get so consumed with work and life and just everything where we don't take time to refill.
It's so true. I made a video. It is not out yet. I was saying the same thing, how I let myself down because I didn't trust my inner voice.
Mhm.
I didn't, we call it the gut. We call it,
Yep.
your knowing. We call it all
Mhm.
kinds of things, the spirit, whatever you
Yep.
call it. But that is inside of us for relationship.
Yep.
The reason we don't trust it is because we haven't developed a relationship with it.
Because sometimes it tells you what you don't want to hear.
I know that's the truth.
I've been in relationships where I
Yes, it
had to
is. I know
mature,
you've been there.
and you
Yep,
can hear it. You be like, man, why do I hear that person telling me I should have did this? And it's like, wait a minute, they kind of was right. You don't want to hear it, so
yep.
you stay
You're right.
busy.
But you know what, Marcus? Even when you don't want to hear it be nagging at you. Like, I'm not going to let you go until it
Yep.
will wake. Look, I woke up at 2 o'clock last night. And there was obviously something that I needed to hear. And I turned on this one video and it was Tabitha Brown and she was talking about
The gift.
trusting your spirit.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I heard that and I was like, okay,
Yep.
I hear you.
Hmm.
Because there's some things that are going on, some challenges to growth
Yep.
that I have been experiencing. It's like, okay, you got to trust your spirit. You
Yep.
got to trust. And I talk about it, and you can talk about it, but sometimes you don't even be about it. Let me
Or
say that again.
it be that very thing you talk about. As soon as you done, you get tested. You like,
Yeah,
wait a minute, I'm just not gonna say that because when I talk about motivation and the other day that I just had, I'm like, man, like, am I not being real enough or what? What's going on? But yeah, definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
because you feel like, okay, I just agreed. Do I have to be tested with it right now? Like, are you serious? Do you really need to wake me
Yep,
up in the middle of
yep,
the night
yep. Gotta make you uncomfortable for you to
to
see.
do something? Like, okay. And I literally got up and I did it, and I was like, okay, now let me go back to sleep because I got to get
Right,
to
right.
work.
There you go. I had to my cousin was going through something and I always tell him, don't get tricked out your spot. And
I love that.
encouraging him and he was going through the courts and things like that. And here it is. I'm like, don't get tricked out your spot. While I'm at work talking to him and work is working. And I'm like, I this isn't for me anymore. And my attitude and everything started to change in that moment. I said, Marcus, wait a minute. How you gonna tell him not to get tricked out the spot? But then here it is. And then I had to listen. I was like, you know what? You're right. Let me slow down and let me remember my why.
Right. And again, it's all about the pain of change versus the pain of remaining the same.
Yep.
Because anytime we're being asked to trust our spirit, to trust our gut, to trust that first mind, it is because change is trying to enter into our space.
Mm-hmm.
There's a frequency to change that I feel like in order for you to really get on it, you have to get on it and stay on it. Because
That's right.
you can fluctuate with change too. I
Right.
fluctuated. It's been like, okay, I'm done with this relationship. And then 2 weeks later, oh hey, you know
Yep.
what I'm talking about.
Yep. Yep. For sure. That and and then like right away you just like, wait a minute. This feeling is familiar. This was just last month or a couple months back, and I'm back here again. And it's like when you can kind of like with your third eye kind of look, and it's like, wait a minute, this isn't going anywhere. So then you ask that other person, they're like, oh no, we're fine, everything is good. And
Right.
it's like, well, I know what I'm feeling. So
Yep.
either we're connected or we're not. And
Right.
most, like I say, most people can't
We
deal with
don't
that.
want to.
Yeah.
It's easy because
I,
guess what? It's comfortable.
yeah. I have a question for you that just came to mind.
Okay.
What allows you to trust again?
Um, Knowing who I am. When I started, because I've been divorced, and what I had to do was to figure out who I was. When I started looking at myself and not the other person, I started seeing that I chose every one of those situations. So if it was really my choice, listen, Marcus, I could choose differently.
Yeah.
I could choose. It was my choice. It wasn't someone making me do anything. I was choosing to live that life.
Yep.
So I could choose to do something different. And I said this in the video that I haven't put out yet is I don't worry about trusting now
Yep.
because I trust me.
Yep.
I've tuned into me.
Yep.
So I know whatever comes my way, I'm at a place where I'm making the decision based on the best information that I have right now.
Yep.
And you can't do anything more than that.
That's it. That's it. I leave with the saying that everyone's gonna let you down. Everyone is gonna let you down at some point. But be yourself. And with my journey, I don't want no one to change for me. Change because that's what you want to do.
Yep.
Let me encourage you or be an inspiration to you, but I don't expect a lot anymore other than for me to be who I am. Either
Yep.
I'm growing, I'm staying the same, or I'm going backwards.
Right. And then you know what I've learned too, Marcus, is the expectation that we have of people. I'm going to say for myself that I've had of people many times they didn't even know I had the expectation of. I expected them to be something and they didn't even know it. So if you don't communicate it and the person tells you yes or no, I can be this or not, you're fooling yourself. You're
Yep,
setting yourself up for failure. So many times we set ourselves up for failure because we have unrealistic
yep,
expectations.
yep. If you put yourself last, you'll never get there because it's always for the next person. You're giving to that person
Yeah.
what you expect, but you never voiced it.
Yeah. It's so true. But that's what happens when you lose your voice. I lost my voice in my marriage. I lost my voice because it wasn't that I didn't have a voice. I had a voice, but when you feel shut down or shut out for so long, you just get quiet. I'm not saying nothing. And that
Yeah.
was just as bad as me screaming and hollering
Yep.
because now all the pain became internal
Yep. 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 Yep.
and it crushed me.
I think TD Jake said this one point. He said that those things that you're talking about that you hold on the inside, they may not affect your day or week or month, but if you don't fix them, it becomes the cancer.
Yeah,
And before when it comes back out, it's too late.
too
Either you're
late.
spazzing out in anger, you're doing things you're going to regret because you didn't talk about it.
Yep.
You didn't bring it out. And being quiet is very dangerous. Very dangerous. Cause you
Especially when you're being quiet because you feel like you're not being heard.
yep,
You know what I'm saying? So what I've learned is you have to put yourself in spaces where people respect what you say,
yep,
when they value what you say, when they understand that you have value. But that
right.
doesn't happen until you understand your own value.
Yep, yep, yep.
When
Rather be celebrated than tolerated. And it
yes.
makes a huge difference when people celebrate you versus just tolerating you because you like for me, it took me years to get comfortable with that. Like, wait a minute, you are happy for me, you're excited for me, because you spend so much time trying to help everybody else, and you don't know. I didn't know what that felt like, and
Yeah.
I'm still getting used to it. For people to like my community to celebrate me, it's like wow, and it make you want to give back. But like I say, holding it in and just being mute, it just tears you up from the
It
inside.
does.
You're not happy. People look at your facial expression. What's the matter? Nothing. You kind of brush it off because you don't. It's not genuine. It's not really there. You're not really taking the time out to know who I am. It's more of to get me back right so I can do for you.
Hmm.
When it's too late, it's just too late.
Marcus, now I want to ask you a question. Why is it that you think men don't like sharing, just like you're doing today, sharing their emotions, sharing the pain, sharing, how they feel? I mean, we know that men don't normally share, but why do you think that is as someone who openly shares how he feels?
Ego, pride, that tough man mentality. You know, I was raised, stop crying, go sit down. I wasn't given that room to express how I felt. And I
Mhm.
thought being tough was, holding it in, enduring it, and just, some guys, it's a cover up. I read the other day that that's a fear.
Wow.
That's a fear, holding it in and trying to be this macho person. That's a cover up. No one wants to walk around tough all the time. And it wasn't until I began to open up where I touch people that I share my story with. Now, if I
Mhm.
tell, a family member, let's just say they're like, oh, okay, I'm being nosy, I'm taking my notes. But here it is that a person walked across my path and I began to open up. You see the life in them rebirth. You see them get encouraged. You see them smile again. You see them have hope. And like I say, it wasn't until I began to express, giving the angles and the fake friends and the paths that I took trying to just be liked or be heard. But the moment that I began to just open up, things changed.
Wow.
Someone out there needs to hear what you're going through.
Yeah.
Everybody's going through something for a reason. No one's perfect in the world. So if I come to you and you're always, have it in line, have it together, I'm gonna look at you like, nah, something's not right. And my circle is the closest circle because we all can open up and be transparent. And it's time and time again where I hear a lot of men when you get them one on one, they begin to open up. I don't know how to do this. I'm scared to do this. What's my purpose? I'm tired of being tough. I'm tired of going to work you know, fighting the world and then coming home and then you got to be tough at home. We're not given that space to open up. Mental health, we're like, I think it's 1.6% higher than women.
Mhm.
60% of men each day have an emotional outburst. That's because we're holding it in. And that's just something that we haven't faced. We haven't faced that pain, that what it is that we're holding in, and some people can do it good, some people can't. And I
Yeah,
know where I'm going.
Luca is on here and he says, as a guy, he agrees with you fully.
Yeah,
Yeah. So there are men out here who feel that same way. But like you say, I love what you said about needing the space.
hmm
And what I really appreciate about you is that's what connected me to you, because I saw you as that person who was willing to open up, who wasn't stuck on his ego, who trusted himself enough to share who he was. You didn't know me, I didn't know
No,
you.
not at all. Not at
But
all.
the connection was there. And for me, I know in my family, like I said, I have a lot of men around me. So I talk to the men a lot. I let them express themselves. I'm that soft space where they can land.
Yep.
And I think just like women have sister friends, that men need that same space where they can
Yep.
land, whether it's with, your wife, your family, other men. I encourage men to really begin to, you know, talk to each other,
Yep.
have those conversations that help you to really grow in who you're supposed to be.
Being vulnerable um, to the wrong person can damage you for a lifetime. And that's one thing that I hear a lot of men, like you say, you pick those relationships. You pick what it is that you wanted. And when you're vulnerable, those words can either build you or tear you down. And a lot of men I've come across always said the people that I was most vulnerable with used it against me later to tear me down. And we begin to hold it in because, like you say, the trust. Who are we going to trust? And for me to be honest, it wasn't until I was. I used to think it was in women.
Mm,
In my childish ways, growing up as a man. Trying to confide in women, and this is not a shot to women, but it wasn't it wasn't the right person. It wasn't the right
right.
time. And
Mhm.
the person that I was actually vulnerable with was a guy. And he
See,
said,
I
you know
love it.
what, man, I feel the same way. And to be honest, if your friends aren't holding you accountable, and if they're always agreeing with you and they can't open up with you, I don't want you around because you're not, I feel like you're just taking notes. We're in competition. Iron sharpen iron. And I do recommend most men like to do a self-reflection and get that guy that holds you accountable, that challenges you to be a better man. And we don't have that because everybody's tough. Everybody wanna, show that they got it. We have so many requirements. Be the provider, be this, be that. You can't cry. Do this. I, that's it. I'm tired. Let me strengthen myself. And
Mhm.
I talk with a friend of mine every day, and we encourage each other every day. And I contribute that to my growth as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's the pain of change. It is the pain of change because you're saying, I'm not satisfied not being who I really am. I think you mentioned earlier about wearing the mask and people being happy with seeing you wearing that mask instead of you really showing who you really truly are.
Yep.
And what I know is that we're living in a time where people are really looking for people to be authentic.
Yep.
People need authenticity in their lives. They need to know what it looks like so that when you're struggling with the pain of change, you understand it's because there's something that's better for you.
Yep.
There's more for you. There's growth that's trying to happen in your
Yep.
life,
Yep.
and it can only happen when you decide to open up. I
Pain
love
doesn't
what you go
pain
ahead.
doesn't make you go the other way. I literally am doing a video right now where it talks about pain is letting you know something needs adjustment, something needs change. Whether if it's in that person you're dealing with, whether it's your job, whether if it's yourself, when you listen to the pain, it's gonna guide you to the root cause.
Yes.
It took me over 40 years to heal some child life trauma that I had with my intermediate family. Like I didn't even know that I had a problem, but it wasn't until I understood and I was able to see that where it was like a light bulb went off. And a
Hmm.
lot of our pain and anger and that change, that trust, that fear, that comes from your childhood.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. It does. And because you think about it, we're being raised by people who don't understand anything about parenting. There is no manual for being a parent. I was a single parent. And so I didn't have a manual for how to raise. I raised a man.
Right,
I don't have a manual. I'm a teenager trying to
right,
raise a child.
right.
Thank God, for family that was there to support me, but you do the best that you can.
Mhm.
And so I believe that when we get to that place in life where we can do something about it, then it's on us
Yep.
to do something about it. I can talk about the pain of growing up and what it was like for me having a pastor as my dad and what that did for me as it related to religion and how I saw God. But I had to grow to a place where I saw God for myself, where I decided to have the relationship with him that I chose,
Mm.
not what my parents told me. See, because my parents gave me what they wanted me to have.
Oh my gosh. I'm a,
What?
I tell people, you know, two things. I'm gonna go back to. I know that you talk with young women, but when you just mentioned about knowing God for yourself, you can get caught up in knowing the God that other people know. And I needed His attention, and I said, God, I can't hear you. I'm doing the blueprint like I was raised, and this is the way that they say do it, and go to church this. And I, when I moved, I kind of ran. I ran for change, and I started to experience God in nature than I did in the church. And that's no
Hmm.
shot to the church, but it
None.
was my experience.
Hmm.
But what pushed me was I said, I need to know God for myself.
Hmm.
So if I believe that He cares just as much for that one sheep that's lost, what I got to lose?
Right.
So I'm gonna go stray. I'm gonna go do what I think is right or what I feel because I've been living for everyone else, and it wasn't until I left that I began to get closer with Him, and I couldn't do the blueprint anymore. I had to
Yep.
do it myself. I
Yep.
had to, walk left. I had to go left, and that was scary. And that's huge. That's huge.
And Harry, I am glad you are here tonight to listen to this
Thank you.
because I think for you, Harry, in particular, that hearing Marcus speak is such a wonderful opportunity for you to see someone who was once stuck and now has found his way to freedom.
Mhm.
Harry was on one of my other podcasts and he was just talking about being stuck as a man. And that's why I wanted you to share, because there are men out here who really feel stuck, who really feel
Mhm.
like they're feeling emotions and they're not supposed to have emotions.
Yep.
Absolutely you are. Emotions are
Mhm.
real
Yep.
and everyone experiences them.
Yep.
And no matter what your story is, Harry, yes, you are from London. Thank you. No matter what your story is or where you're from, you still have the same opportunity to let go of the ego and
Mhm.
really understand that as a man, you deserve to be in freedom. You deserve to walk out what it is for your life. No one can make that determination but you. And Marcus, that's what I love about your story. I love that you come on and you're authentic. You know, you're not holding back anything. You're not trying to be anybody other than who you are.
Right.
That takes courage.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It takes courage because most people do not want to do that.
Yeah. That's one of the bravest things in life. It takes it takes, like you say, it's courage to go left, especially in the
Yes,
uncertainties of life that where you don't know, and it's like a lot of people try to live through that through you, and I didn't know I was gonna come out on this end. I didn't know that I was going to be able to just be who I am today if I wouldn't have took a chance on myself.
that's right.
And but I wanted to ask you because I noticed that you've talked with a lot of women growing up that maybe that may have grew up rough or had a hard time. What was it like talking to those women, given where you were at that point in time in your life? Did your story connect, or was it more like just general, like you can do better, you can do this? Like what was that like?
I think for me, my story started very early because, like I said, I was a pastor's kid who got pregnant as a teen. Imagine that.
Right, right. Stereotype,
Imagine
right?
that, right?
Right, right,
So that was the start of my life.
right.
So if you can see how I started, then you know how why I am the way that I
Oh,
am right
I
now.
get it. I get it. I get it. When I found that out, I was just like, wow, when you give freely and it doesn't cost something, like when you're in service for other people, that's the best feeling in the world. That's the
Yes.
best feeling in the world. And, just to hear, your story, it's like when I first saw you and I started watching your page, I'm like, for real, like really, like you don't look like what you've been through, you know. And as a man, though, you always get the other men and be like, oh man, brother, oh, you can relate. But to hear another woman kind of go through the same hurdles, it's like I don't know, it's definitely encouraging, and I wish that I could talk to men in the way that I'm doing now, and to be here right now, it makes it all the better.
Yeah, and I believe that when we figure out who we are and we really start understanding that there is more to us than what people see,
Hmm.
eventually they will see it. I'm
Yeah,
not trying to convince anybody. And
right.
that's the thing. No one should be trying to convince anybody about who they are.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
You
You
know
got
what
too
I
much
mean?
too much work on self to be worried about anybody else.
Can't.
Yeah.
Can't. Yes. And when you make that decision and figure out who you are dangerous.
You're unstoppable.
You're
And in a lot of my videos, I said I'm not going anywhere, and I don't care what happened because I know what's inside of me. I know
Yep.
I'm not gonna say all men, but if it wasn't for the late nights of scrolling through YouTube and getting encouraged when I don't know where I would be.
I
you
love that.
know, and why not give back? It's to look, and I have three boys. I got more time past me than I do ahead of me. And it's not about the material things. It's not about nothing that I can physically obtain through money. It's about helping the next person. And when you know your why, nothing's going to stop it. And what I've learned in just this social media era, they watch from the hallway. They may not hit a
Yes.
like, they may not subscribe, but they watch. And when they
They're
keep seeing
watching.
you and they see that joy and that happiness, and they like, okay, finally, let me see what's going on. And you're there, like you say, with your full cup, welcome them
Yep.
in. So I don't feel too much in life get discouraged, and
Yeah, and that's the thing. And honestly, my whole life, because I'll say this, because of how I was raised, it taught me something about service.
hmm
And what it did teach me is that you're not always to give people a fish, the saying, and some people what you're supposed to give them is to teach them how to fish.
hmm yep,
You know what I'm saying? As long as I'm feeding you, you're dependent on me.
yep.
But I want you to learn how to fish for yourself.
hmm Yep.
Because when you learn that, you'll never go hungry.
You'll never go hungry at
You'll
all.
never go hungry.
Nope. I always tell people from my mistakes. A friend of mine said, "Man, you got a lot of wisdom. I'm trying to be like you." And no, you don't want to walk that path. That path was for me to tell you so you don't make the same mistakes. You know,
That's right.
it like you say, the iron sharpened iron. So, you I think like just like when you talk with those women, I'm like really interested in it. Like, did they like, do you still do that? Do you still talk with them?
Absolutely. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. I had my first mentoring relationship 30 years ago. A young lady came and lived with me. She was in 12th grade. Her mom had kicked her out because she got pregnant. Okay, same story, right?
Right, right,
She came and lived with me. She wanted to go back to school. She wanted to graduate. So I let her come back and live with me. She had this baby. This baby, all he did was cry. But I was determined to help this. She's my first mentoring relationship. I felt some connection with her. And I tell you, to this day, this young lady her son graduated from college. She is a pastor's wife. She's doing so well for herself, but just 3 months. So sometimes it don't take long for you
hmm
to do what you need to do for someone. Sometimes you're just simply talking on a YouTube video and someone hears something and it changes their life. Isn't that something?
wow.
Just how it happens.
So,
It's that simple.
do you think that you could have been in that position had you not been through what you've been through?
No, no. I would not have heard her.
Right,
I was able to hear her because of my own story.
right,
And that's what happens for us. We can hear people because of our own
right,
stories.
right, right.
And so when you have a story, you hear something, it connects with you.
That's true.
But that's where I started. It's not where I ended because since then I've done all sorts of things for women.
Right,
I've had women groups. I've coached women. I've
right,
coached teen girls.
right.
I've spoken in schools. I've spoken in colleges.
So you're
I've
not you're
done
not new to
all
this.
I've traveled the world. I've actually sat on the ground in Africa with women who was given US dollars to build businesses, and I've been able to encourage those women. I have lived a full life of uplifting people, and it's because that is the gift that is inside of me.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it that's different now, Marcus, is through that journey, I've learned to make sure my cup is full.
right,
I didn't always do it with a full cup.
right,
So I would get tired, I would get frustrated, and because I didn't know how to manage it.
right,
Now I know how to manage it in a way that allows it to be sustainable for me.
right.
So you are growing in as you began to fulfill your purpose in life, you know how to navigate it so it no longer becomes a weight for you.
Right, right, right,
It
right.
becomes something you can manage. So again, is the pain of change versus the pain of remaining the
Remaining
same.
the
I
same.
couldn't be that same person now that I was when I took someone into my home with a baby.
Right, right, right,
I've grown to the place now where I can talk to women and teach them how to build their own homes, how to make a life for themselves and their children.
right,
I
right,
used to go with girls down to the social service agencies to help them to apply for services. Now I can teach you how to do that
right,
yourself.
right,
I give you the skills that you need.
right,
I'm teaching you how to fish.
right,
That's the growth that happens within you when you begin to grow yourself. You need people in your life to help you to grow.
right, right. So I got one more question.
Go ahead.
That having to walk away was you. We know pain pushes you for growth, but how would you say for one to understand where to start? Like not like because you hear the voice, but most people won't walk away because that thing is attached to them.
Mhm.
Like it's like the 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 validation, like that thing loves me, or I can't walk away because that thing needs me.
Mhm.
Whatever that is, how would you encourage someone to say, like, to learn, like, sometimes loving them means that you have to walk away from them?
I would say that it's a process. I was married 14 years.
Right,
I I could have left probably 5 years earlier,
right,
but you know why? It's the stories you tell yourself.
right,
There I had a good life. I had my own home, I had my own car.
right,
So what? We would go back and forth. There were
right,
luxuries that I enjoyed. But at some point, the luxuries lost their value.
yeah, you definitely your heart, it pushes you. I tell my friend all the time, I say, man, you know when you're tired. There's more to life than just feeling like you're stuck in place. And I think a lot of people, they suffer with not understanding that sometimes walking away allows that other person to grow or thing to grow or to fall off. And it's really about you putting yourself first.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Marcus, let me say this. There's someone on here, Lazy Nate, who wants your t-shirt. So what I'm going to forward his message to you. Lazy Nate, his name is Mr. Stick to It. Go search him out as well. Mr. Stick to It. He loves your shirt.
I was telling him thank you. But his shirt is this one here is expect nothing and receive everything.
I love
You
it. Did
know,
you make that?
yeah, yeah. I was printing off shirts this morning for graduation, and I was like, I gotta put something out because I don't really like since I've started that, I haven't done anything for me yet. Everything is for everyone, and I'm doing so. I was like, let me just print something that kind of fits to where I've had this print for a while. I just never printed it. So,
So
but yeah.
Lazy Nate, go follow Mr. Stick to It. And yes, very good.
But I'm
Thank
new
you for
to this, you
liking.
guys. Like I said, this is my first live and first time really talking in front of people. And, again, I just want to thank Carla and the people that stopped through to, watch for a little bit, watch from the hallway, whatever. But it really pushed me. If anything else from today, I've been stretched to go forward. I've been pushed to go forward. And again, I just want to thank everybody that stopped by, that, tuned in and Carla, to Miss Carla, to you again, I cannot thank you enough for just sometimes watching your videos just to see you keep going, knowing what you've been through. And we talk about it like, we smile like it's easy, but it's not. It's not easy to walk away. It's not
That's right.
easy to put yourself first.
Yep.
And staying stuck hurts longer than to walk away. I healed
Facts.
a lot faster when I had nowhere to go.
Yep.
I didn't know what the next move was, so I was fighting the pains, the thoughts, the mindset, the I'm not going to be enough and I'm not going to make it. I was okay with where I ended up because I knew where I didn't want to be.
Right.
And when you sit in yourself and you know you can do better, when you hear that still voice, when you hear that, hey man, you wrong, or you need to go apologize, or you can ignore it if you want to.
I have so appreciated you, Marcus, for coming on here. I did not know this was your first live. You
Yes.
can't tell me that it was your
Yes.
first live because you did not act like it
Oh,
was your first
well,
live. And now you have no
I
excuses,
don't. I don't. I don't. I don't.
no excuses for going live. And if you ever want me to come on your channel, I'll come on your channel and go live with you.
I definitely thank you. I definitely got the jitters out. Excuse me for rambling, but
No, you did
yeah,
excellent.
I
And
appreciate it.
please,
I appreciate it.
please, guys, go follow Mr. Stick to It. Like, subscribe to his channel. Order yourself some t-shirts from him. I have ordered some. I plan to order some more. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you. And please, if you have not liked or subscribed to this channel, please like and subscribe. I also have a stand store, Carla's Corner, and I will leave the link below. Please go and check out my products. Have an amazing evening, everyone, and we will talk to you again soon.
Talk
Take
to you
care,
soon,
Marcus.
guys. Have a good
Bye.
one.